A millionaire took a homeless woman to his ex-fiancée's wedding, and what she did shocked everyone. Before we get into the story, drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. William Lancaster, an arrogant millionaire, held a wedding invitation in his hands. It was from his ex-fiancée, the woman who had dumped him for some other guy without a second thought. Now she had the nerve to send an invitation, as if she wanted to rub her happiness in his face. "Is this a joke?" he muttered, tossing the envelope onto the table. His friend, Damon Carter, picked up the invitation and whistled. "That's a low blow. Are you going?" William let out a dry laugh. "Show up alone like some kind of loser? No way. Then take someone. Show her you've moved on." It was a good idea, but taking just anyone wouldn't be enough. He needed to make an impact to leave Olivia wondering what he was up to. Later that day, as he left his office, he was still thinking about it when he noticed a young woman sitting on the sidewalk in front of a restaurant. She was dirty, her clothes worn out, but she had a beautiful face. Her messy hair fell over her shoulders, and her eyes weren't pleading. They were defiant. On impulse, he walked over to her. He approached, hands in his pockets, looking down at her. "Hey, you need money?" The woman looked up, but not with gratitude. Her gaze was sharp, as if she were deciding whether he was even worth a second of her attention. Then a smirk appeared on her lips. "What is this, a social experiment? You ask, and depending on my answer, you either toss me a coin or walk away." William's eyebrows lifted. No one talked to him like that. "Come with me to an event, and I'll pay you enough to change your life." She let out a quiet chuckle, shaking her head slowly. "Enough to change my life? Wow. Do you always use dramatic lines, or just when you want to sound like some kind of savior?" There was pure sarcasm in her voice, and it threw him off more than it should have. He kept his composure. "You just need to dress up, smile, and come with me." She tilted her head, amusement flickering in her eyes. "Oh, I see. You want me to be your decorative doll for the night." William narrowed his eyes. This woman was challenging him on purpose. "If you don't want the offer, I can find someone else." She laughed, this time out loud. "Is this a joke? Because honestly, I don't see a line of candidates waiting around here." He pressed his lips together. How the hell was she turning this around on him? She stood up, dusted off her dress, and stepped closer, too close. "I'll accept," she said as if she were doing him a favor. "But only because I'm curious." William felt something dangerous in the air. "Curious? Curious about what?" he asked, suspicious. She smiled, her eyes glowing with an unreadable expression. "To see how far a man like you is willing to go." William stood still for a moment, wondering who the hell this woman was. Isabella settled into the seat of the luxury car, keeping her gaze fixed on the city passing by outside the window. She didn't seem scared, nervous, or impressed, just observant. William, sitting beside her, realized he was waiting for some kind of reaction from her. No questions, no hesitation, just acceptance. "You don't even want to know where we're going?" he asked, breaking the silence. She turned to him, a smirk playing on her lips. "Someplace expensive, I imagine." William raised an eyebrow. "And you're not curious?" "Should I be?" She tilted her head. "You found me on the street and offered me money to be your date. That's already strange enough, but I doubt you're planning to sell me into human trafficking or something." William laughed. "No, nothing that dramatic. Just a social event. A wedding, right?" He looked at her. "How do you know?" "You have that look. A man trying to get revenge on someone." William clenched his jaw. Isabella was reading him like an open book, and he didn't like it. "And if I am?" She shrugged. "Does it matter to me? As long as I get paid." William smiled. He liked her attitude, but he still wanted to understand who this woman was, someone who accepted everything so easily. Minutes later, the car stopped in front of an elegant building, a renowned beauty salon. Isabella stepped out without question and followed William inside. The place smelled of expensive products, and a team of stylists rushed to assist them the moment he entered. "I want a complete transformation," William ordered. "Hair, Makeup, clothes, everything. The staff nodded, and within seconds, Isabella was seated in a styling chair. "If you want to change your mind, now's the time," she said as a hairdresser began untangling her hair. "Change my mind about what? About you? I guess I was expecting someone more impressionable." William crossed his arms. "Are you not impressed by anything? Not by this?" Isabella closed her eyes as the hairdresser started washing her hair. "I've been in this world before." William frowned, but before he could ask anything, the stylist pulled him toward the waiting area. "Mr. Lancaster, would you let us work?" He glanced at Isabella one last time and left, intrigued. The hours dragged on. When the stylist finally called his name, William stood up and walked back to the salon. When he saw her, he held his breath. The woman standing before him didn't look like the same person he had met sitting on the curb. Her once messy hair now fell in smooth, shiny waves. Her face, previously dirty and marked with exhaustion, was now flawless, her eyes accentuated by sophisticated makeup. The fitted dress flattered her figure, and the high heels made her look even more confident. But what surprised him the most was her expression. She didn't seem shocked or impressed by her transformation. She simply looked at herself in the mirror, observing, as if she had seen herself like this before. "What is it?" She turned to him, catching his curious gaze. "You don't look surprised." Isabella smiled, a mysterious glint in her eyes. "Because I'm not." William crossed his arms. "Who are you, Isabella?" She grabbed the purse the stylist handed her and walked toward him. "Someone who knows how to seize good opportunities when they come." The car glided smoothly down the illuminated road toward the event William had been avoiding but was now eager to attend. Beside him, Isabella observed the landscape with an almost irritating calm. He had expected her to show some anxiety or nervousness at some point, but since leaving the salon, her composure remained flawless, as if she were already familiar with that world. "You're very quiet," William commented, glancing away from the road to look at her. "I'm just enjoying the silence," Isabella replied with a faint smile. He frowned. "Most people in your situation would be dazzled by all this." She laughed softly. "Maybe I'm not like most people." William realized that pressing her further wouldn't get him anywhere. There was something about her that intrigued him, but he wouldn't get answers so easily. The car finally stopped in front of the luxurious banquet hall where hundreds of elite guests had already gathered. Outside, couples stepped out of limousines and sports cars, showing off their jewelry and designer dresses. Photographers and journalists covered the event, ensuring every detail of the wedding was documented for the society pages. William got out first, adjusting his suit naturally. Then he extended his hand to Isabella, who accepted without hesitation. When she stepped out of the car, the immediate impact was undeniable. All eyes turned to her. Women whispered among themselves, trying to figure out who the mysterious woman accompanying William Lancaster was. Men watched her with interest. Isabella, however, didn't flinch. With impeccable poise, she lifted her chin and smiled discreetly, as if she were already used to being the center of attention. William guided her down the red carpet toward the entrance of the hall. As they walked, Isabella maintained a serene expression, showing no surprise at the luxurious surroundings. "Follow my lead," William whispered. "Be polite, smile, and don't draw unnecessary attention." She raised an eyebrow. "Did you bring me here to make your ex jealous or to be invisible?" William pressed his lips together, not answering. "That's what I thought," Isabella said with amusement. They passed through the double doors and entered the grand hall, where crystal chandeliers sparkled under golden light. The room was filled with high society figures dressed in their finest attire. It didn't take long for Olivia and her fiancé to come into William's line of sight. Olivia looked stunning in an elegant white dress, her smile perfectly crafted to charm everyone. Charles Montrose, her future husband, was exactly the type her family would approve of, wealthy, traditional, and predictable. Olivia's eyes met William's for a brief second. She seemed surprised to see him there, but then her gaze landed on Isabella and froze. Olivia's expression changed subtly, as if trying to figure out who this dazzling woman next to her ex-fiancé was. With a calculated smile, William led Isabella directly toward them. "Olivia," he greeted her with a polite yet cold tone. She blinked a few times before forcing a smile. "William, what a surprise. I didn't expect you to come." "Of course I came." He looked at Isabella. "And I brought company." Olivia examined Isabella from head to toe. "We haven't been introduced." "You are?" Before William could respond, Isabella extended her hand naturally. "Isabella, a pleasure to meet you." Her voice was firm, elegant. Her posture was flawless, and her smile showed no sign of submission. Olivia hesitated before shaking her hand, clearly uncomfortable. "You look familiar," Olivia remarked. Isabella smiled, tilting her head slightly. "Do I?" Olivia forced another smile, but William noticed the tension in her eyes. She was unsettled, exactly as he wanted. Charles cleared his throat, trying to break the awkward atmosphere. "Shall we toast?" He raised his champagne glass. William nodded, but before he could turn, Isabella gave a polite smile and said something that caught everyone off guard. "I hope you'll be very happy. Marriage is a serious commitment. I was once engaged myself." William froze. Olivia and Charles exchanged glances. "Really?" Olivia asked, forcing a casual tone. Isabella nodded, taking a sip of champagne. "But it didn't work out. My fiancé decided I wasn't the right choice for his family." William felt a chill run through him. She was sending a clear message, and Olivia caught it. His ex-fiancé's eyes narrowed slightly. "That's an interesting coincidence." Isabella smiled. "I think so too." An uncomfortable silence filled the air. William could tell Olivia was struggling to keep her composure. Finally, Isabella lightly touched William's arm. "Would you like to dance?" He blinked, surprised. "Dance? Yes? Or would you rather stay here and watch your ex-fiancée try to figure out where she knows me from?" William chuckled softly. He liked the game Isabella was playing. "Let's dance." They walked away, leaving Olivia behind, visibly disturbed. As they glided across the dance floor to the orchestra's melody, William looked straight into Isabella's eyes. "You did that on purpose." She smiled. "Didn't I tell you I've been in this world before?" William felt a mix of irritation and admiration. Isabella wasn't just a homeless woman he had found on the street. She knew exactly what she was doing. The music flowed smoothly through the ballroom as William and Isabella moved across the dance floor. His gaze remained locked on hers, trying to figure her out. Isabella maintained flawless composure. Her lips curved into a mysterious smile, as if she knew exactly what she was doing. "You keep surprising me," William murmured, leading her with precision. "Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" Isabella arched an eyebrow. "I haven't decided yet." She laughed softly, her eyes sparkling with amusement. "I think you've already realized that I'm not exactly what I seem. I've realized that you know much more about this world than you should." Isabella tilted her head slightly. "Let's just say I've been surrounded by people like this before." "Before?" William could ask more. A group of businessmen approached, holding champagne glasses and offering friendly smiles. They were investors and magnates William knew well. "Lancaster," one of them said, shaking William's hand. "You finally decided to show up at a social event." William returned a firm handshake. "I thought it would be interesting to celebrate the couple." The businessman's attention quickly shifted to Isabella, studying her with interest. "And who is your lovely companion?" Before William could respond, Isabella stepped forward and extended her hand naturally. "Isabella, a pleasure to meet you." She spoke with such natural confidence that none of the businessmen questioned her presence. "Isabella," one of them repeated, studying her. "Your face looks familiar." Isabella smiled, keeping the mystery alive. "Perhaps we've met at an event before?" The businessman nodded thoughtfully but didn't press further. William watched her closely. Isabella was blending in far too easily. "And what do you do, Isabella?" another businessman asked, intrigued. She picked up a champagne glass from a passing waiter, swirling the liquid before answering. "I enjoy observing the financial market." The rise in technology investments has been quite interesting lately, especially the new startups focused on artificial intelligence. There was a brief silence. William almost laughed at the surprised expressions on the businessmen's faces. None of them had expected such an articulate response. "That's a rather specific topic," one of the men commented. Isabella smiled, taking a sip of her drink. "I just follow trends. After all, everything comes down to who gets the inside information first, doesn't it?" The men laughed, now more at ease. Isabella had captured their interest. William, however, felt a growing frustration. Isabella wasn't just fitting in. She was taking over. Before he could intervene, a tall man with a distinguished appearance approached. Damon Blackwood, one of the country's most influential investors, known for his sharp business instincts and his ability to size people up quickly. "Isabella, right?" Damon looked at her with interest. "You seem very comfortable here." She turned to him with a polite smile. "Maybe because I am." Damon laughed. "I like that. And what's your relationship with Lancaster?" She shot William a playful look before answering. "Just an interesting partnership." William felt his blood boil. Isabella was playing her own game, and he didn't like losing control. "Indeed," William interjected, taking the glass from her hand and handing it to a waiter. "Now, if you'll excuse us, I need to steal my companion for a moment." He grabbed her wrist and led her to a more secluded area of the ballroom. "What exactly are you doing?" he asked through clenched teeth. Isabella smiled. "Just having fun. You're standing out too much. Wasn't that the plan, to make your ex-fiancé jealous?" William narrowed his eyes. "You play very well, Isabella." She tilted her head. "And you don't like it when you can't control the game, do you?" William let out a short laugh. "You're not just a simple beggar." Isabella crossed her arms. "And it took you a while to figure that out." Before he could respond, Olivia appeared beside them. "I hope you're enjoying the party," she said politely, though her eyes assessed Isabella cautiously. "Very much," Isabella answered before William could speak. Olivia forced a calculated smile. "You know, Isabella, I feel like we've met before." "Maybe," Isabella replied with a shrug. "The high society world can be small after all." William noticed the way Olivia pressed her lips together. "And where do you know William from?" Olivia insisted. Isabella smiled. "I think it's more fun if that stays a mystery." Olivia let out a soft laugh, though there was something sharp in her gaze. "Of course, mystery always adds an interesting touch to stories." She turned to William. "Can we talk for a moment?" William nodded, but before stepping away, he cast one last look at Isabella. She simply smiled as if she knew exactly what she was doing. William followed Olivia to a private balcony. The night was cold, and the city lights sparkled in the distance, but the look on the woman in front of him burned like fire. "Who is she, William?" Olivia asked bluntly, crossing her arms over her immaculate dress. He kept his expression neutral. "Isabella, my companion." She let out a dry laugh. "Don't treat me like a fool. I know the kind of woman you bring to events like this, and she doesn't fit the mold." William felt a surge of irritation. "What exactly do you want to know, Olivia?" She stared at him intensely. "Where did she come from?" He hesitated for a second, and that was enough for Olivia to catch on. "My God," she whispered as if she had pieced the puzzle together. "You found this woman on the street, didn't you?" William didn't confirm it, but his silence said it all. "This is unbelievable," Olivia said with a disbelieving laugh. "You brought a beggar to provoke me?" "I brought a confident, intelligent woman who fits in here perfectly," he countered firmly. "A woman who knows too much for someone who was supposedly living on the street," Olivia retorted, narrowing her eyes. "She doesn't belong in this world, or does she?" William didn't like her tone. "Don't try to play games with me, Olivia. You don't have that right anymore." She raised an eyebrow. "Maybe I don't, but I have the right to know who I'm dealing with." Olivia straightened her posture as if she had already made a decision. "If I were you, William, I'd be careful. That woman didn't show up in your life by chance." Without waiting for a response, She turned and walked back to the ballroom, leaving William alone with his doubts. Isabella felt the stares as she moved through the guests. It was inevitable since her arrival. Everyone had been trying to figure out who she was, but she moved with ease, as if she had always belonged there. Then Olivia appeared in front of her. "You dance well," Isabella smiled. "Thank you. So do you." Olivia tilted her head, studying her. "And you speak well. You know how to carry yourself at an event like this." "I appreciate the compliment," Isabella said calmly. "It wasn't a compliment. It was an observation." Isabella noticed the tension in Olivia's eyes. "You think you know me?" Olivia laughed softly. "I don't think I know." Isabella kept her posture steady. "Then tell me, Olivia, who do you think I am?" Olivia observed her for a long moment before smiling. "That's what I'm still trying to figure out." She picked up a glass of champagne from a waiter's tray. "But don't worry, Isabella. I always find out." She took a sip and disappeared into the crowd. Isabella stood still, taking a deep breath. Olivia was starting to suspect something, and that was a problem. In the car, William drove in silence. Isabella watched the bright city streets, but she could tell he was unsettled. "You want to ask me something," she said. "I do." He didn't take his eyes off the road. "But I don't know if you'll answer." She smiled. "Depends on the question." William turned the wheel, making a sharp turn. "Who are you, Isabella?" She crossed her legs, relaxed. "The woman you chose to make an impression on your ex-fiancé." "No." His jaw tightened. "You know too much. You act like someone who has lived in this world before." She stayed quiet. William pulled up in front of his hotel and turned to face her. "I had you investigated." She didn't look surprised. "And what did you find?" He studied her. "Nothing. You don't exist, Isabella. No records, no recent information. It's as if you erased your own life." She gave a small smile. "Maybe some things need to be erased." William felt a mix of frustration and fascination. "I don't like mysteries." "Then maybe I'm not the right person for you." She opened the car door and stepped out, walking into the hotel without looking back. William sat still for a moment, his fingers gripping the steering wheel. She was hiding something, and he was going to find out. Isabella locked the door and leaned against it. Her heart was racing. Olivia was suspicious. William was suspicious. She looked at herself in the mirror, the luxurious dress, the flawless makeup. For a moment, she looked like someone else, or maybe she was becoming who she had always been. She pulled out the disposable phone hidden in her bag and typed a short message. He started investigating. The reply came seconds later. "Then it's time for you to decide your next move." Isabella deleted the message and let out a quiet sigh. She knew she couldn't keep this secret for long, and soon William would find out the truth. William was not a patient man. He liked direct answers, absolute control over everything around him. But Isabella, she was a mystery that defied his logic, and that bothered him more than he wanted to admit. That morning, as he sipped his coffee in his office, his mind was still stuck on the night before. Isabella knew things she shouldn't know. She acted like she belonged in high society, yet she had no records, didn't exist in any system. It was as if she had erased her own history. He picked up the phone and dialed a number he hadn't used in a while. "I need you to look into someone for me," he said bluntly. As soon as the call was answered on the other end, a man chuckled. "It's been a while, Lancaster. Who's the target?" "Isabella." William paused for a moment. "No last name. That makes things more interesting. I want to know everything. Where she came from, who she really is, and why she seems to be hiding something. Give me 48 hours. William hung up and leaned back in his chair. If Isabella was playing a game with him, he would soon see her cards. Hours later, after leaving the office, he decided to find her. He knew she was still staying at the hotel he had booked for her. When he arrived, he went straight to her floor and knocked on the door without warning. "Let's play a little game. For those who only read the comments, type chocolate in the comments. Only those who made it this far will understand. Now let's continue with the story." It took a few seconds, but Isabella finally opened the door. She was dressed simply, without the flawless makeup from the night before, yet her posture remained unwavering. "Were you expecting someone?" William asked, crossing his arms. She didn't seem surprised by his visit. "Not really, but you don't seem like the type who announces his arrival, do you?" He studied her for a moment. "Can we talk?" She stepped aside, letting him in. William walked into the room, scanning the neatly arranged space. There was no sign that Isabella had been living on the streets. "Have you always been this straightforward?" he asked. She smirked. "You don't like small talk, so why? Should I use it?" William sat on the couch across from her. "I want to know the truth, Isabella." She raised an eyebrow. "The truth about what?" "About you. Who are you, really?" She leaned forward slightly. "Why does that bother you so much?" His fists tightened. "Because you came out of nowhere, accepted my offer without hesitation, and act like you already belong in this world. But there are no records of you anywhere." She was silent for a moment. "And what if I don't want to tell you, William?" William let out a humorless laugh. "Then I'll find out on my own." She looked at him for a long moment before sighing. "Fine, William, I'll tell you a little." He adjusted himself on the sofa, waiting. "I grew up in a world very similar to yours. Luxury parties, powerful connections. But that world can be cruel, especially when you become an obstacle to the wrong people." William narrowed his eyes. "Obstacle? My family was influential. My father ran businesses that involved a lot of money. But one betrayal made everything fall apart overnight. I lost everything." He frowned. "Who betrayed you?" Isabella looked away. "Someone I trusted." William sensed there was more to the story than she was revealing. "Why did you erase your life?" She gave a sad smile. "Because sometimes it's safer to disappear." The silence between them grew heavy. William knew she wasn't telling him everything, but this was the first piece of the puzzle. "And now, what do you plan to do?" Isabella crossed her legs. "I'm still deciding." William stood up. "You can keep deceiving me, Isabella, but I will find out the truth." She watched him leave the room without saying another word. The next day, William received a call from his investigator. "I found something. Tell me." "You were right. Isabella isn't who she pretends to be." William gripped the phone tightly. "Go on." "Her real name is Isabella Deo, daughter of Richard Deo." William's blood ran cold. He knew that name. The construction tycoon? That's the one. But here's the interesting part. Richard Deo went bankrupt a few years ago after a scandal involving embezzlement. And guess who was involved in that scandal? William felt his breath quicken. Olivia Harrington? Exactly. William was silent for a moment. So Isabella didn't show up by chance. Seems like she didn't. He hung up and stared out the window of his office at the city below. Isabella had a direct connection to Olivia. That changed everything. Later that evening, he was in his office reviewing some documents, but he couldn't focus on a single word. Isabella's image kept flashing in his mind. The sparks of anger and vulnerability in her eyes. The way she never backed down. Before he realized it, he grabbed his car keys and drove to the hotel where she was staying. He needed to see her. He needed to hear the truth from her own mouth. The door opened after a few seconds, revealing Isabella with a tired expression. Her hair was slightly messy. "William." Her voice carried surprise. "We need to talk." She sighed and opened the door wider, letting him in. "I didn't know you made late-night visits." "Neither did I." He crossed his arms, staring at her. "Can you stop testing me for a minute and tell me the truth?" He frowned. "About why you accepted my proposal without hesitation." She looked away for a moment before finally speaking. "Because Olivia Harrington destroyed my family." Those words made William's stomach churn. He already knew, but he wanted confirmation. "Olivia was responsible for my father's downfall, for the destruction of my life." He observed her closely. "Tell me everything." Isabella walked to the window, hugging herself. "My father, Richard Deo, owned one of the largest construction companies in the country. He was an honorable, respected man until he trusted the Harringtons. Olivia came into the business as a strategic partner, someone he believed he could rely on, but in reality, she was manipulating him the whole time. Manipulating how? Creating fraudulent deals, embezzling money, putting his name on illegal transactions without his knowledge. When everything exploded, my father was accused of corruption. He lost everything, our home, our dignity. Her voice wavered. He passed away before he could defend himself. William felt a pang in his chest as he heard that. My God, Isabella continued, her eyes fixed on the city outside. After that, everything fell apart. My mother got sick shortly after and couldn't hold on. I tried to fight, to prove his innocence, but Olivia had already closed all the doors on me. In no time, I had nothing left. William stood and walked over to her. You survived on the streets? Yes, and that's how I learned never to trust anyone again. He reached out and lifted her chin, forcing her to look at him. You don't have to do this alone. She pulled her face away. I don't need a savior, William. He took a deep breath, fighting the urge to insist. I know, but that doesn't mean you have to carry everything by yourself. Isabella let out a soft laugh, but there was no humor in it. You think you can protect me? I think I want to protect you. She blinked, surprised. And why? He let out a sigh. Because I don't know what I'm feeling anymore. When I'm around you. There was a long silence. Isabella finally turned fully to face him. What does that mean? He ran a hand through his hair. It means you make me uneasy. I've never felt this way before. I can't explain it. She watched him for a long moment. And does that bother you a lot? Yeah. Then maybe it's best if we keep our distance. He shook his head. I can't do that. She looked away, clearly disturbed by the direction of the conversation. This doesn't change anything. I know. She clenched her fists. And what about Olivia? The mere mention of his ex-fiancée's name was enough to bring him back to reality. If everything you said is true, I don't know who she really is. Isabella nodded slowly. But I do, and I won't stop until I settle the score. William remained silent. He knew he wouldn't be able to convince her to back down. Then I'll be by your side. She gave a small, bittersweet smile. Even knowing this could end very badly, he took a step forward, closing the distance between them. Even then, later that night, William was awakened by the sound of his phone ringing. William, we have a problem, said the investigator on the other end. What is it? Olivia already knows Isabella is around, and she's not happy about it. William's heart raced. What is she going to do? We don't know yet, but someone is digging for information on Isabella. He clenched his jaw. Keep me posted on any updates. When he hung up, a weight settled on his chest. Olivia wouldn't leave Isabella alone. He needed to act before it was too late. The next morning, William found Isabella on the hotel balcony. She was sitting on the ground, arms wrapped around her knees, staring at the horizon. He approached slowly and crouched down beside her. You know she's found out, right? I know. He sighed. She's not going to stop. Neither will I. William watched her for a moment. The way her hair was slightly disheveled. How tired her eyes looked. Something inside him tightened. Isabella. She blinked a few times as if trying to hold back tears, but one slipped down the corner of her eye. It was instinctive. William pulled her into an embrace, holding her close against his chest. It's going to be okay, he murmured. She didn't resist. She simply closed her eyes and rested her face against him. Neither of them said anything. There was no need in that moment. Without having to admit it aloud, they knew they were in this together, and that Olivia had no idea what was coming. William felt that something was about to happen. Since his conversation with Isabella the previous night, his mind hadn't found any rest. Knowing that Olivia was involved in ruining Isabella's family changed everything. He wanted revenge, not just for Isabella, but for himself. After all, he had almost married a woman capable of destroying lives without hesitation. Now he needed to find out how far Olivia would go to protect her secrets. That morning, while reviewing some reports in his office, he received a call from his private investigator. William, we have a problem. Go on. Olivia is up to something. My contacts say she's gathering information on Isabella. It looks like she's planning to expose something against her. William gritted his teeth. What exactly did she find out? I don't know yet, but I do know she's already reached out to lawyers and journalists. If she's going that far, it means she has something big. He threw the pen on his desk and stood up, running a hand through his hair. Find out what it is before she makes a move. I'm on it, but I suggest you warn Isabella. He took a deep breath. I'm on my way to see her now. When he arrived at the hotel where Isabella was staying, William knocked hard on the door. She opened it quickly, surprised to see him so tense. What is it? He walked in without waiting for an invitation and shut the door behind him. Olivia is making a move against you. Her eyes narrowed. What do you mean? She's gathering information and planning something big. My investigator believes she might try to expose you publicly. Isabella didn't seem surprised. She just sighed and crossed her arms. I knew this would happen. And you're this calm about it? She laughed without humor. After everything I've been through, William, do you really think a scandal is going to scare me? He watched her for a moment, admiring her strength, but that didn't lessen the danger. I can protect you, he said. She raised an eyebrow. I told you, I don't need a savior. This isn't about saving you. It's about stopping Olivia. Isabella stepped closer, looking deep into his eyes. And what are you going to do, William? He held her face gently, his thumbs brushing her skin softly. Whatever it takes. For a moment, she just stood there, looking at him. There was something in her eyes, something William wanted to understand but that she quickly hid. I don't want you to get hurt because of me. He gave a faint smile. Too late for that. Before she could respond, Isabella's phone vibrated. She looked at the screen, her face tensing. What is it? William asked. She showed him the screen. It was an anonymous message. * be careful who you trust. The past always comes back to haunt you. He took the phone from her and studied the message. That was Olivia. Isabella took the phone back and deleted the message. She's trying to intimidate me. William shook his head. That means we're getting close to something. She nodded slowly. Then we need to act before she does. The next morning, a scandal broke. Every major newspaper ran headlines about Isabella. Isabella Deo. From luxury to the streets, the heiress who lost everything. Former fiancé of William Lancaster involved in corruption scandals. The media was ruthless, reporting every detail about the Deo family's downfall, painting Isabella as a woman who tried to deceive the powerful. Olivia had made the first move. At the office, William read every article, fury burning inside him. When Isabella walked in, he stood up. Did you see it? She nodded and tossed a magazine onto the table. Olivia is trying to destroy me again. He clenched his fists. That's not going to happen. She gave a soft laugh. You always have that absurd confidence. He gently held her chin, making her look at him. Because I never lose. Her eyes flickered with something close to hope, but determination quickly took over. Then let's make sure she loses this time. William nodded. It's time to bring Olivia Harrington down. They stared at each other for a long moment. They didn't know how this would end. The scandal involving Isabella had dominated the headlines for days. Olivia played dirty, distorting her past to make it seem like she was an opportunist trying to re-enter high society. But Isabella remained unfazed. She had waited years for this moment. She wouldn't fall now. William knew that too, but he also knew Olivia wasn't done. She would try one final blow, and they had to be ready. That evening, Isabella received an unexpected invitation. Private dinner at the Harrington Club. Select members only. Your presence is requested. She gripped the invitation tightly. William, sitting on the couch in her room, read the note and scoffed. This is obviously a trap. I know. He stood up. Then you're not going. Isabella looked at him defiantly. Of course I'm going. William pressed his lips together. Isabella, this is my moment, William. I'm not running. He took a deep breath, running a hand through his hair. Then let's make sure Olivia is the only one who loses tonight. The Harrington mansion was lit up, filled with select guests for the event. Isabella walked in alone, wearing an elegant black dress that exuded power and mystery. William was already there, blending in with the crowd, watching every detail. Then Olivia appeared. "Isabella," she said, a venomous smile on her lips. "Glad you accepted my invitation." "You didn't give me much choice," Isabella replied, taking a glass of champagne from a waiter. Olivia tilted her head. "I hope you've enjoyed the attention you've been getting lately. The media loved your story. I've gotten used to being the center of attention. Something you've always wanted, haven't you?" Olivia's eyes flashed with anger for a second, but she quickly regained her composure. "Isabella, dear, you've lost again. No matter what you try, you'll never be someone again." Isabella smiled. "You're wrong." Olivia narrowed her eyes. "What do you mean?" William appeared at Isabella's side, his imposing presence making Olivia stiffen. "Dear Olivia, it looks like you didn't read the papers today," he said, handing her an envelope. Olivia opened it and turned pale as she read it. It was a complete dossier proving her involvement in the scheme that had ruined the Deo family. Documents, recordings, signatures, undeniable evidence. "This is fake," Olivia whispered, her hands trembling. "No, it's not," Isabella said triumphantly. "And tomorrow morning it'll be on every front page." Olivia completely lost her composure. "You can't do this to me." William smiled coldly. "Just like you did to Isabella." Olivia looked around, realizing that all eyes were on her. The scandal had already begun. Her reputation was ruined. She was finished. "This can't be happening," she murmured in shock. Isabella leaned in and whispered in her ear. "Now you know what it feels like to lose everything." Olivia glanced around, realizing that everyone was witnessing her humiliation. Her empire of power was crumbling right before her eyes. Then, before she could react, the ballroom door swung open. 2 police officers walked in, followed by a prosecutor. "Miss Olivia Harrington," one of the officers announced. She froze. "Yes, you are under arrest for financial fraud, embezzlement, and market manipulation." The entire ballroom fell silent. Olivia let out a nervous laugh. "This is ridiculous. I am Olivia Harrington." "And now you're also a criminal," Isabella replied coldly. The officers stepped forward and handcuffed Olivia. "William!" she screamed, desperate. "Say something." He simply looked at her with indifference. "Your only mistake was thinking you'd never get caught." As she was dragged away, Olivia shot one last look at Isabella, her eyes burning with hatred. "This isn't over for you." "It is." And just like that, in front of the elite who once admired her, Olivia was taken away. Isabella let out a long breath. For the first time in years, she felt truly free. The next day, Olivia's arrest dominated the news. Her financial empire collapsed within hours as investors and allies abandoned her. Later that evening, Isabella and William were in his penthouse looking out over the city through the window. She held a glass of wine but didn't drink it. She was deep in thought. "You did it," William said. "We did it." He smiled. "And now, Isabella, what's next?" Isabella said aside. "I start over." William felt an unfamiliar tightness in his chest when he heard that. "I want to help you." She looked at him skeptically. "How?" He walked over to her, took an envelope and handed it to her. "This is a proposal for a new business, a company in your name." She blinked, surprised. "What?" "I want to start something for you. A business of your own, with your name, your independence." She set her wine glass down and crossed her arms. "William, I don't need your charity." He chuckled, shaking his head. "This isn't charity. It's a partnership. You have talent, you have vision. I want you to have something that belongs to you." She hesitated. "I don't know." He took her hands in his. "Isabella, you've spent years fighting. It's time to start building something real." She remained silent for a long time. Then she sighed. "All right, but on one condition." "What condition?" She stepped closer, her eyes locked on his. "I do this my way." William smiled. You always do. The air between them changed. Something warm, intense lingered there. She looked away, but he gently cupped her face. Isabella. She didn't resist when he pulled her into a kiss. This time, there were no barriers between them. The tension, the unspoken feelings, everything erupted in that moment. William held her tightly as if afraid she might slip away. After the kiss, Isabella pulled back, met his gaze, and softly said, "Good night, William." Then she turned and walked away. William stood still, but he knew she felt something too. Days later, Deo Consulting was born. A strategic investment and analysis firm, Isabella threw herself into it, building her team, reconnecting with old contacts slowly. She began to reclaim her place in the business world. William stayed by her side the entire time, never imposing, but always present, until one night he realized he had to tell her how he felt. "I'm in love with you," he said without hesitation. She blinked, caught off guard. "William, the first know it soon, but I can't pretend anymore." She looked away, her heart pounding. "I can't." "What do you mean?" She took a deep breath. "I'm not ready for a relationship. I just got my life back, and I need to focus on that." William nodded, though it hurt more than he wanted to admit. "All right." She gave him a soft smile. "You always understand, but I'm not a man who gives up easily." In the weeks that followed, William made sure she knew he wasn't giving up. Every morning he left a fresh cup of coffee on her desk to keep you going, he'd say with a smile. Then came the dinners. "Is this a date?" she asked one evening. "Just dinner between business partners," he replied casually. And then the small surprises. One night, after a long day, Isabella returned to her office to find a bouquet of white lies on her desk with a note. "I know you like coffee more than flowers, but I hope you'll enjoy these anyway." She chuckled, feeling something stir inside her. But William wasn't just trying to win her over, he was supporting her. When an investor tried to deceive her, William was the first to warn her. When the media attempted to twist her story, he used his influence to ensure the truth was told. And when Isabella had a rough day, he showed up with a bottle of wine and a concerned look. "Want to talk about it?" She hesitated, but for the first time allowed herself to open up. Months passed, and Deo Consulting grew stronger. By the day, Isabella finally felt she had control over her life. But there was something she couldn't deny. William was always there. She tried to ignore the feelings that surfaced every time he smiled at her. One evening, Isabella attended a business event that gathered the biggest names in the market. She moved gracefully through the room, greeting investors and CEOs with the confidence of someone who had faced the worst and survived. Her navy blue dress was sophisticated yet understated, still drawing attention. She focused on making meaningful connections, but it didn't take long for her to sense someone watching her. Liam Bissett, a renowned French investor, approached with a charming smile. He was a charismatic man with dark hair and intense eyes. "Miss Deo, I finally have the pleasure of meeting you in person." Isabella returned a polite smile. "Mr. Bissett, the pleasure is mine." He extended his hand, but instead of a formal handshake, he leaned in slightly and kissed the back of her hand, a traditional but captivating gesture. "I would say the pleasure is all mine," he said, his gaze holding hers. Isabella was used to such advances, but maintained her composure. "I assume you're here for business," she said. "Business can wait for a moment, don't you think?" He tilted his head and extended a hand to her. "May I have this dance?" She hesitated briefly, but decided to accept. Dancing meant nothing. Liam guided her to the dance floor, holding her waist firmly, but respectfully. They moved in sync, and Isabella realized he was a skilled dancer. "You dance well, Miss Deo." "I've learned that a strong presence is essential in business," she replied, "and outside of business." He smiled, leaning slightly closer. "Aren't there moments when you just let yourself enjoy life?" Isabella let out a soft laugh. "Are you always this persistent?" "Only when I find something that genuinely interests me." The music ended, but Liam didn't immediately let go of her hand. He led her back to the bar, grabbing 2 glasses of champagne and handing one to Isabella. "So tell me, does a powerful woman like you ever make time for fun?" Before Isabella could answer, she felt the penetrating gaze on her. She turned and saw William Lancaster on the other side of the room. His face was serious, his eyes darkened with something she recognized instantly: jealousy. William crossed the room with determined strides, ignoring the greetings he received along the way. When he reached Isabella and Liam, he stopped beside her, his irritation barely concealed. "Isabella, may I speak with you for a moment?" His voice was firm, but laced with tension. Liam raised an eyebrow and offered a polite smile. "Mr. Lancaster, correct? I've heard a lot about you." "And I've heard about you," William replied coldly. The atmosphere around them seemed to drop a few degrees. "William, we're in the middle of a conversation," Isabella said, trying to maintain composure. "Yes, I noticed," William said, shooting a glance at Liam. "And as much as I'd love to keep watching this unfold, I have more important matters to discuss with Isabella." Liam maintained a polite demeanor, but Isabella sensed he had picked up on the tension. "It seems your friend doesn't like sharing attention," Liam murmured to her, amused. Before Isabella could respond, William took a stepping forward, making it abundantly clear that he didn't appreciate the remark. William said, "You've had your dance. Now, if you don't mind. Isabella huffed, grabbing William's arm firmly. Excuse me, Mr. Bissett. I'll be back in a moment. She pulled William toward a more secluded area, her steps determined. When they reached a hallway away from the dance floor, she turned to him, furious. What was that, William? He ran a hand through his hair, trying to quell his rising anger. I couldn't stand seeing that guy hitting on you. And that gives you the right to act like a complete idiot? Did you really not notice the way he was looking at you? He wasn't interested in business, William. And if he was, that's my business, not yours. William was silent for a moment, his eyes glinting with frustration. You're right, he finally admitted. But I hate the idea of seeing you with another man. Isabella took a deep breath, trying to keep her anger in check. I'm not yours, William. You have no right to be jealous. She turned to leave, but William followed her to the parking lot. Isabella, wait. She spun around abruptly. What more do you want? I want you to listen to me. I've heard enough. You need to understand that you can't control me. The tension between them was palpable, explosive. William stared at her fiercely, and Isabella felt her body buzzing with adrenaline. Then, suddenly, he pulled her toward him and kissed her. It was a desperate kiss, filled with anger and suppressed desire. Isabella froze for a second, but then, unable to resist, she kissed him back. But then reality hit her, and she pushed him away. You can't do that. William was breathing heavily. His eyes darkened with desire. I know you felt it. That doesn't justify anything. She turned and got into her car before he could say another word, speeding out of the parking lot, leaving William behind. The next day, Isabella was in her office, but her mind was still replaying what had happened. She tried to focus on her reports, but the memory of the kiss haunted her. Then the door opened, and William walked in. You can't just show up unannounced, she said without looking up. I came to apologize. She finally looked at him. For the jealousy, or for the kiss you stole? He sighed. Both. Good. Now, if you don't mind, I have work to do. William chose not to insist and walked away. She turned back to her documents. That night, Isabella left the office late. As she approached her car, she noticed something was wrong. The window had been scratched, a word crudely etched onto the glass. Beware! Her blood ran cold. Someone was trying to scare her. Her first instinct was to call William, but she hesitated. She didn't want to give him another reason to act like her protector. But before she could decide, a message appeared on her phone. Alone. You won't get anywhere. Know when to quit. This time, she didn't hesitate. She picked up the phone and dialed William. He answered on the second ring. What happened? Someone scratched my car and I just got a threat. His silence lasted only a second before his voice came out firm. I'm on my way. 15 minutes later, William pulled up next to her car. He studied the scratches on the window, his expression hard. Are you okay? Yes, she said, crossing her arms. You know you can't ignore this, right? I know. William pulled out his phone and called one of his private security contacts. I need footage from the cameras in this area. Find out who did this now. Isabella watched as he took control of the situation, handling the problem with the ease of someone who had dealt with threats before. As much as she didn't want to rely on anyone, in that moment, she felt an odd sense of relief that he was there. When William hung up, he turned to her. Until we find out who's behind this, I want you to have extra security. In the following days were filled with tension. William managed to find out that the attacks on Isabella's company were being orchestrated by one of Olivia's former associates, who was trying to block her rise. When Isabella found out, she didn't hesitate. She scheduled a meeting with the man and, alongside William, made it clear that she wouldn't be intimidated. Did you think you'd scare me? She said, keeping her voice calm. Let me be clear. I've lost everything before, but now there's nothing that will make me back down. The man swallowed hard. He knew he had lost. After that confrontation, the attacks stopped. Isabella proved she was not an easy opponent. But her victory had an unexpected side effect. She realized that throughout this entire time, William had been by her side, not to protect her from something she couldn't handle, but to support her. And that made her question why she was still trying to keep her distance. One evening, Isabella was in her office, lost in thought, when William walked in. "It's been 3 months since you opened the company," he said, tossing a small box onto the desk. She picked it up and opened it. Inside was a silver keychain with the letter I engraved on it. "To celebrate," he said. She smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "Thank you." He watched her for a moment before speaking. "Will you ever stop running from me?" She held her breath. "William, I'm not asking for anything. I just want to know if there's a chance." Her heart pounded in her chest. She knew the answer but couldn't say it yet. He noticed. "It's okay," he said, stepping back. "Like I said, I'm patient." When he left the room, Isabella let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. She knew she was close to giving in, but when she finally made that decision, it would be for good. And that scared her more than any threat she'd ever faced. The next day started like any other. Isabella arrived early at the office, immersed in reports and meetings. Since the attacks on her company had ceased, she was finally able to focus on growing the business. But throughout the morning, something began to bother her. William didn't show up. That was unusual. William always found a way to drop by, even if just for a few minutes, with some work excuse or simply to tease her. But that morning he didn't call, didn't send any messages, and didn't show up. At first, Isabella tried to ignore it, but as the hours passed, the unease grew inside her. By 8 o'clock in the evening, she couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed her coat and left the office, driving to William's penthouse. When she arrived, she rang the doorbell several times. No answer. Her heart raced. She took out the spare key William had given her for emergencies and unlocked the door. The lights in the apartment were dim. The place was silent, except for the low hum of the television. That's when she saw him. William was lying on the couch, covered with a thin blanket, his face pale and his breathing heavy. "William!" Isabella ran to him, placing her hand on his forehead. He was burning up. He opened his eyes slowly, surprised to see her there. "Isabella! Oh my God! You have a fever!" She held his face, worried. "It's just the flu," he murmured, his voice hoarse. "I'm taking you to the hospital," Isabella said, already grabbing her phone. But William held her wrist, stopping her. "No, I just need to rest." "William, you're burning up." He tried to smile. "If I go to the hospital, they'll take my blood. I hate needles." Isabella sighed in frustration. "You're impossible." William closed his eyes, exhausted. Isabella got up and went to the kitchen, preparing hot tea and grabbing a damp cloth. She returned to the living room, kneeling by the sofa and placing the cloth on his forehead. "This will help bring down your fever." He opened his eyes, looking at her softly. "You didn't have to come." "Yes, I did." The silence between them was heavy with meaning. Isabella didn't want to admit it, but seeing him like that tightened her chest. She spent the entire night taking care of him. She made tea, changed the cold cloth on his forehead, and stayed by his side. At some point during the night, exhaustion took over. She fell asleep there, sitting on the floor with her head resting near his chest. The next morning, Isabella woke up to the gentle touch of William's fingers in her hair. "Did you stay here all night?" he asked, his voice stronger. She blinked a few times before lifting her head. "You were in bad shape. Someone had to take care of you." He smiled, running a hand over his face. "I feel much better. I think I had the best nurse in the world." She chuckled softly and stood up. "I'll make breakfast." Isabella went to the kitchen and carefully prepared everything. Fresh bread, neatly sliced fruit, orange juice, and strong coffee. When she returned with the tray, she found William sitting on the couch, watching her with a different expression. "What is it?" she asked. He took a deep breath before speaking. "I love you, Isabella." She froze for a second. "William, I know you feel the same. I saw it last night and the way you were worried about me." He bit her lip, her heart pounding. This time there was no reason to deny it. I love you too, William. His eyes lit up with happiness. Finally, he murmured, pulling her into a tight embrace. She laughed against his chest, feeling ridiculously happy. You're so persistent. And it was worth it. They pulled apart, and Isabella served breakfast. William watched her every move, as if memorizing everything. I want you to take the day off, he said suddenly. She raised an eyebrow. What? I want to take you somewhere special. She hesitated, but after the night before, she didn't want to be away from him. All right, where are we going? It's a surprise. William took her to a secluded cabin on a private beach. As soon as they stepped out of the car, Isabella was speechless. William, this is beautiful. He smiled. I knew you'd love it. They spent the afternoon walking along the shore, feeling the ocean breeze and talking about everything. Then William sat on a rock and looked at her thoughtfully. What is it? She asked, sitting beside him. He took a deep breath before speaking. Before I met you, I was arrogant, ambitious. I only cared about power and myself. Isabella stayed quiet, listening intently. But then you came along and started challenging me. At first I found it irritating, but then I became intrigued. He looked at her. You were the first person who wasn't afraid to stand up to me, and that made me realize I was surrounded by people who just said yes to everything I wanted. You made me see the world differently. Her heart tightened. I never wanted to change you, William, but you did. You made me a better man, more human, more humble. Isabella smiled softly, and I fell in love with this version of you. He took her hand, his eyes locked onto hers. I need to ask you something. She frowned slightly, confused. William stood up and pulled something from his pocket. Isabella's eyes widened when she saw a small box. He opened it, revealing a sparkling diamond ring. Isabella, I want to do this the right way. I want to love you the way you deserve, with respect, with patience, and with all my heart. Will you marry me? Tears filled her eyes. She didn't have to think twice. Yes. William smiled and slipped the ring onto her finger before pulling her into a passionate kiss. At that moment, Isabella knew there were no more barriers between them, and that this was only the beginning of something even greater. The sun was setting over the beach as Isabella and William returned to the cabin. The air was still warm, and the scent of the ocean mixed with the gentle breeze that made her hair dance. William held Isabella's hand firmly, as if afraid she might disappear. But there were no more doubts. They belonged to each other. I still can't believe we're engaged, Isabella said, looking at the ring sparkling on her finger. William smiled, pulling her closer. I knew this would happen. You just took your time accepting it. She rolled her eyes, laughing. You never give up, do you? Never. Not when it comes to you. Her heart warmed at his words. She had never imagined finding a love this deep, this real. Later that night, William prepared a special dinner for them on the cabin's terrace. Candles lit the table, and the sound of the waves crashing against the shore created the perfect atmosphere. You're cooking, Isabella teased, looking at the perfectly plated dish. I wanted to impress my fiancé, William replied, pouring wine for both of them. She picked up her glass and raised a toast. To us, to our future. William clinked his glass against hers. To the love of my life. They toasted and enjoyed dinner, sharing laughter and loving glances. When they finished, William took Isabella's hand and pulled her in for a dance under the stars. Do you remember the first time we danced? He asked, guiding her slowly. At that business event. I remember you were insanely jealous. He chuckled. I was. But now I know I never had to be. You were always meant to be mine. Isabella smiled and rested her head on his chest. There, dancing under the starry sky, she realized she would never have to run from her feelings again. Months later, the big day finally arrived. Isabella had never imagined she would dream of a wedding. But there she was, dressed in white, about to say I do to the man who had changed her life. The ceremony took place in a beautiful garden by the sea. White flowers decorated the altar, and elegant chairs were neatly arranged for the guests. The The sound of the ocean in the background created a magical atmosphere. William stood at the altar in a sleek black suit. When Isabella appeared at the aisle, his heart stopped for a second. She was stunning. Her hair fell in soft waves, and the delicate dress highlighted her beauty in an ethereal way. But what captivated him the most was the sparkle in her eyes. Isabella walked toward him with an emotional smile. When she reached the altar, William held her hands and whispered, "You look beautiful." She smiled, feeling tears welling in her eyes. The officiant began the ceremony, speaking about love, partnership, and the meaning of building a life together. When it was time for the vows, William took a deep breath before starting. "Isabella, from the moment I first saw you, you challenged me. You never bowed down to me, never blindly accepted my decisions, and that's what made me fall in love with you." Isabella's eyes filled with tears. "You taught me to be a better man. You made me see that power and money mean nothing if I don't have someone by my side to share life with. I promise to love, respect, and make you happy every day of my life." Isabella could barely contain her emotion as she began her vows. "William, I spent my life fighting alone, thinking I could never trust anyone. But you were persistent. You never gave up on me, and today I know I never want to live without you." They exchanged rings, and when the officiant declared them husband and wife, William pulled her into a passionate kiss as the guests applauded. It was official. They were husband and wife. The honeymoon was perfect. They traveled to beautiful destinations, enjoyed every second together, and when they returned, their life as a married couple started even better than they had imagined. William insisted on spoiling her, bringing coffee to bed every morning, while Isabella returned the favor by preparing romantic dinners. Their love only grew stronger. But something began to change in Isabella. She felt strange, constantly tired and nauseous. One morning, while in the bathroom, her heart raced as she looked at the pregnancy test in her hands. 2 lines. She was pregnant. Emotion overwhelmed her, and tears streamed down her face. She and William were going to have a baby. But when she went to the doctor for confirmation, the surprise was even bigger. She was expecting twins. When she got home, William found her sitting on the couch, holding the ultrasound. "Isabella, what's wrong?" She looked at him, her eyes shining. "William, I'm pregnant." He froze for a second. "What?" She smiled, taking his hands and placing the ultrasound in his palm. "We're having twins." William's eyes widened before a huge smile spread across his face. "Oh my God!" He laughed, pulling her into a strong hug. "We're having 2 babies." "Yes." He held her face in his hands and kissed her deeply. "You just gave me the best news of my life." She laughed through her tears. "I love you so much, William, and I love you more." The following months were an emotional roller coaster. William became even more protective, spoiling Isabella constantly. He talked to the babies before bedtime, gave her foot massages, and insisted she didn't overdo it. Finally, at the baby shower, surrounded by friends and family, they revealed they were expecting a boy and a girl. William held Isabella and whispered, "We built an empire together. Now we'll build a family." She smiled, her heart overflowing with happiness. "And it'll be the best one ever." At that moment, Isabella knew she had everything she'd ever dreamed of. A home, true love, and now a growing family. And she would never be alone again.